This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl.
Welcome to YAK Radio, a radio show that's about, well, who knows? It's a different topic every week, but YAK Radio is always full of information to help you and your family get through life. Now, here's your YAK Radio host, Dave Stahl.
Yeah. This is YAK Radio with Dave Stahl and Brittany Sandoval. Yes. We're sitting here talking all kinds of things. This is FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
Hey, it's brought to you by San Diego Propane. If you're lucky enough to live in East County, Dave and his family will take care of your propane needs like nobody else. Go to sd-propane.com, sd-propane.com, 619-4, have to look close, 460-1705.
Can I borrow my glasses?
Yeah, I know. West Escondido Auto and Trans. More locations than you can shake a stick at. AAA, Napa Auto Care, ASC certified. Go to westautomotivegroup.com for the best service on the planet. It's always good having Brittany in the house, especially on the YAK Radio show.
Variety of topics.
How are you doing?
I am well, thank you.
Who's this little short lady you got brought in?
Okay, so I am so excited that she's here.
Excited.
Well, there's so many good people and people to learn from. I feel like she's an urban legend. I've heard her name. Animals are her life. I feel like she was put on this earth to do good. In fact, she has been recognized many times among, the Red Cross Animal Welfare Hero Award. That was recently awarded to today's guest. Some have referred to her as a local hero, an angel on earth, but I think she would say, I am a dog recovery specialist. Please welcome the founder of A Way Home for Dogs, Babs Fry. Oh my gosh, she really exists. She's right next to me.
Have you had to use her?
No, I hope
lucky?
I never have to, but just in researching her a little bit, I've learned so much already. And really, anything that a human thinks they should do, don't listen to Babs. So hopefully today, this hour is educational in some ways for our listeners. And it spreads the word of many events that are happening and some things unknown.
Okay,
Thank you.
Babs, welcome to the show. And as a dog owner with a paranoid wife.
Oh, Michelle, did you hear that?
Well, I keep telling her, we have people come to our house with dogs, and the dogs are walking alongside them, and they come in the house, and then when they leave, they walk alongside the owners and get in their vehicles. My wife won't even crack the front door.
I love your wife.
Really?
Yes,
if that dog goes near that door, man, she is all over that dog. No.
Prevention is huge. You're busy enough, right, Babs?
Prevention is everything. They're animals. They operate on instinct, unpredictable, uncontrollable things, and you're out of control.
Really? Okay, then I stand corrected. Sorry, dear.
Did you hear that, Michelle? Could you say it a little louder for the people in the back?
No, I am not saying it a little bit louder. But, and oh my God, it was so funny. I'd gone grocery shopping and come back, and I opened the garage door, and I put the grocery, I walk out, and I go, why are all these dogs out in the driveway?
What?
And I went, ooh, because we have this little gate that did not get latched. I didn't do it. I went, oh, shit. So I said, hey, honey, some of the dogs got out. So she's going up and down the road, hollering and screaming.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
exactly.
Trying to get him back. So I go sit on the couch. I thought, maybe I better go out and at least drive around, make it look good.
Oh, ding, ding.
They all came back. I mean, they all came back. But, because all our gates are double gated. They're all double. We have the fence, and then we have the our house is just like Fort Knox. Because the last thing she would, and it has nothing to do other than they're her kids.
Yep.
Babies. Yeah.
Even
mine
old
are.
babies.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
And she knows, and she's been doing this as long as I've been around, that these dogs will go do anything and everything that they want to do if they want to do it. They're not going to say, oh, I can't go out here because my master will yell at me.
Do they follow their nose? Like follow your nose?
That is exactly how they think. I mean,
think that's the big
absolutely.
thing. If they smell something, ooh,
What's
is that?
So
let me go check that out. Well, because isn't a dog's smelling capabilities like 20,000 times
really
more?
Extreme like that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of the things I tell owners all the time is we may be like generation, back in Nancy Drew and Murder, She Wrote days, the basic detective would say, go get the child's brush so they can bring out a hair, right? To go find this missing person. And the reality is, think about what these dogs are used for and what they're trained to do and what they find, based on that training. And I talk to owners all the time who are like, I've been out screaming for their name. And I'm like, they smell better than they hear. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's not about what they hear. It's about what they smell.
Right.
And the same way their nose can take them on a wild adventure like yours might.
Which it is.
Well, but the reality is you also take your dogs on a wild adventure when you go looking and driving and taking everything they're looking for ultimately everywhere but home. That's why I always tell people to do very specific things to help them do what most dogs do, which is come home.
Well, right. That's exactly right. And no two dogs are alike either.
No.
They're just like people.
Yep.
They all have personalities. Some are more adventurous than others.
Well, and the same thing goes for fear levels. people often ask me for, Pabs, can't you just give us a textbook or a black and white list? And I'm like, no, it's a recipe, except it's not chili. It's life or death. Every dog is different. Scenario is different. History is different. There's so many things that make a massive difference.
With that said, for our listeners, could you give maybe some basic do's and don'ts? So,
oh my God,
I know that
we haven't even
they're
gotten 2 minutes into this, and
I
you're
think,
already.
I think we've only got an hour.
I know, but just basics, because in kind of researching you, there were a couple themes that kept coming up.
The reality is almost, if it's a human idea and it sounds like a great one, it's
Don't
probably a bad
do it.
idea.
Well, and really, Babs, what we're talking about is, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a dog that has a tendency to nip at you? Are you trying to correct that?
No,
Are you trying
I'm not
to
correcting? I'm saying if a dog gets lost.
you're just talking about being lost.
If
No,
a
yeah,
dog
for
gets
sure.
lost, do not
It's
go
all about
chasing
dog
them
behavior.
around in a car.
No, so the very first thing I tell everybody to do is stop, because the very first thing we do as human beings is panic. You hear people talk about dogs smell fear, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Their smell is good, but not that good. They read nonverbals. I used to ask people questions. I don't anymore because we end up with very awkward conversations. So I just make a statement. I'm going to guess as a teenager or in a relationship of some sort, you had a fight about tone of voice and attitude. So when you're out screaming for Molly, Molly's like, oh my God, they're going to kill Mom too. I better run. Because that's what Molly hears.
Right.
So it's the very first thing you have to do is stop. You have to get yourself oriented, and then you have to manage the things that are going to dictate your dog's behavior. If the environment is frantic, crazy, and chaotic, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry and family members come over to help you look for your dog, the dog is not coming back.
Right. But if
even
how about if you
dogs.
just walk down the property?
No.
You're spreading
You don't
the
want
smell,
your dog
right?
going all over the property. You want your dog coming. It's all about creating an isolated GPS marker for your dog's nose. That's how they navigate. And they don't drive streets. They follow. I've had dogs come back on the wrong side of the fence of a property that they'd never been to. The reality is, when you're active, you're doing two things. You're spreading your smell, if there's significance there, but without knowing the mentality of the dog, you don't know if it's operating on flight. Their survival instinct is very black and white. Fight or flight, fly or die.
Right.
And if they're in flight mode, they hear, smell, and sense presence, because that's how they survive. And that means you come traipsing through looking for them. They're not waiting around to see if that's mom or dad.
Right.
They're out of there, because if it's not mom or dad and it's a predator, they're done.
Right.
So you got to stop.
They are predator driven. They know first someone's going to get them.
Yep.
That's their first instinct.
Yep.
And to stay as far away. Like we found one Roddy all huddled underneath a wagon that somebody had in their yard down the street. He was all cuddled down there. And it goes to exactly what you said. He or she was scared to death and didn't want to come out, even though Michelle was screaming her head off for this dog. And I'm sure my wife more or less thought, well, if I mention its name, it'll know its name. And I don't think so.
The screaming.
That is so accurate, actually, because one of the disputes I have.
Don't tell me it's accurate.
No, it is.
No, I don't want to know that much about dogs.
No, you're accurate.
Yeah.
And the reason that I say that is everybody, the first thing here are the two things they put on their signs. So to answer your question quickly, the bottom line is you got to stop, pause, and in an ideal world, contact me. So I can help you navigate those variables before you make mistakes that we can't recover.
Right.
You don't want to spread your smell. You're not hunting down your dog. And there are specific things we do based on that variety of variables. As far as the dog name goes, when I send samples to people about signs, It doesn't say lost, and it doesn't have their name. And the reality is, obviously, the dog is lost. It's inherent in what you're doing.
Right.
But human nature, right? You see a big L or an M, and it's muscle memory. They see your dog, and all they saw was that L or M in a photo, and they're going to chase the dog that's running.
It and scream the name.
You nailed it with the name thing.
Right.
I don't put a name out there because every human being believes
Right.
dogs inherently come to their name.
But they
My
don't.
Dusty
And when they
Rose
don't,
does not.
and then they yell louder.
Yeah.
Certainly,
Oh,
it must
no,
not have
no,
heard
no.
Then
me.
they get mad.
You know, I'm
Come.
sure Michelle was thinking, he must not have heard me say his name.
And then she gets mad at the dog.
Yep.
Yep.
And I've been saying this. Man, I'm going to be divorced by the time this show's over with.
Uh-oh,
Either
Michelle.
that or Michelle will hate me. One of the
No,
two.
she's not going to hate you because she has to respect what you. How long you been doing this? Week, 2 weeks?
A couple years.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break.
Oh.
Let's take a quick break. I know, but we got to pay the bills. This is Yak Radio with Dave Saul and Brittany Sandoval on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
Folks, hey, welcome back to Yak Radio with Dave Saul and Brittany Sandoval, FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
South Bay Auto House got a Volkswagen. Close. Little brother. A Mercedes-Benz, because Auto House, that's what they specialize in for over 25 years. Factory technicians, master techs. They have parts in-house. You don't have to worry about waiting for parts. And if you have a Mercedes and you're going to trade it in and say buy a new Mercedes, give them an opportunity. They may buy it off you and actually save you a ton of money or give you more money. Give them a call at 619-622-6252. They're down. Oh, that's 422. I'm starting to lose my
Again,
eyesight.
I have bifocals
I
right
don't
here.
want your bifocals.
I have a pinhead. They may not fit.
And Bumper Docs A&T, scratches, dings, and dents, lease returns, body work, paint work, you name it. Family owned and operated. Go to cntbumperdoc.com. We got Babs in the house. So-
Babs Fry, the angel on earth.
Yep. Is that your title, Angel on Earth?
Oh,
Depends on who you ask.
Recovery specialist.
Right.
And
Yes.
if your dog goes missing, take a deep breath and call Babs.
Yes.
Don't chase him. Don't
No.
call out because you're scaring them more and spreading the scent. And we want to find, you said, singular GPS spot.
Yes.
Can you elaborate briefly on that? Because that's probably one of the first things one should do.
You know, you have to remember that your dog ultimately, when the dust settles and it stops panicking, is going to try to get itself oriented. And every single dog knows exactly where it left. Our objective is to not get in the way by spreading smells, chasing, following, managing people, but then doing the things to give the dog what it needs to get where it goes with its nose, you know? And so it's that isolated GPS marker with specific smells that drive dog behavior, whether it be individuals, a specific animal. You know, the key to calling me is people don't always know where something might be aversive or positive. You know, I will go ahead and get rid of what I hear everybody do right from the get-go. Don't put the dog bed out. Don't put the dog crate out. Don't put the dog toys out. Do you not believe that dog is running around with its own smells?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's
Absolutely.
not looking for itself.
Yes,
but every single person.
looking for
I mean, but every
itself.
single
Well, no,
person
that's
does that.
true.
That's what a lot of the literature will
hilarious.
say.
We had two dogs
That
get
makes
out.
great point, yeah.
Had two dogs get out. Wife panicked, running all over Hell's Half Acre. The two dogs went out, went down, and went over to the neighbors because the neighbors and the dogs have played occasionally. So we finally, the guy calls up. He goes, "Hey, by the way, two of your Rotties out? They were laying on the patio, relaxing. You know." We were joking. She said, "Well, they were watching the sunset because he has a better sunset view than we have." But I mean, they just went over there and just was relaxing, and there wasn't a panic. And I keep telling her, you can't panic.
You can incite panic in the dog by doing that.
That's what I tried to tell her.
I don't want to put you in another bad
that's
conversation with your
okay.
wife.
You're
but
sleeping out on the couch tonight
That's
and making your own dinner. Anything else, Michelle? Text
Excuse me, I make my own dinner. I make dinner.
You
I
do.
cook.
Actually, you are in the kitchen.
So,
Well, people talk all the time about how dogs mirror their owners, if you think about it.
Right, but
You know,
you-
my husband and I joke. My dogs are all, "Ah," and his dogs are all, "Ah."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a reality.
And so are mine.
And you go out in a panic, and your dog's like, oh my God, something must be bad.
Yeah.
And now they're running when they had no reason to run to begin with.
So the central GPS is not their own smell. But
No.
what I've read and heard is like your undergarments, some rotisserie chicken.
So let me clarify the rotisserie chicken.
Okay.
Once upon a time, that's something I still use rotisserie chicken a lot.
Okay.
But like anybody who becomes a master in their trade, you're always learning. If you decide you're an expert and
for
have nothing
you.
to learn, you're done. You know, now it's ego, not education.
Yeah.
And somebody who knew more than me shared, rotisserie chicken is valuable if you need to play let's make a deal with the dog. And that high value, strong smell of food is definitely something you want on your person. But you don't need rotisserie chicken drizzled along the lawn for your dog to come out and start taking a snack on to get spooked off in the process of grazing in its front yard. And so it's about simulating that same smell in different ways and getting it in the wind to draw the dog back. It's not a trail. It's not multiple places. I am known not for my personal dirty underwear, but for dirty underwear.
All right.
The reality is, friendly dogs, right? What is the first thing they do?
Sniff ya.
They do. They don't know it's awkward, but we think they're kinky.
Ooh, no, not there.
Yeah.
So I think you made a statement and you kind of went quickly
Yes.
through it. And I think it's something that somebody needs to really, really stop and think about. And that is when a dog takes off and he goes on he or she's adventure, when she or he is done with the adventure, they know where they came from.
Even if they've never been there and they're scared to death of it. And here's what you have to remember.
So-
like in that dog that took off in a panic,
Yeah.
like the toddler.
Right.
Toddler takes a spill. It's a boy. Completely unfazed by it. Looks up,
Yeah, waiting.
and the grown-ups freak out. And now he's wailing.
Right.
Right?
Well, sure.
He was perfectly fine. Dog, same way.
Yeah.
Non-event
So if
will drive their behavior.
let's just say
Yep.
the couple that we had let go, if we would have just chilled and went around and didn't call all the neighbors, didn't call the mail carrier, and didn't call the trash truck driver to look for our dogs, they would come back.
That's a yes and no answer. You absolutely manage people and get the word out because that's what you need to know in case they don't. Because every dog doesn't come back. Things
Right.
happen.
Okay.
But
I
yes,
wanted to make sure,
100%
'cause
they
I didn't
come
want
back.
people to think that, oh, well, then I just will sit home and wait. He or she will
get
come back.
the word
Thank
out
you.
so there are multiple eyes
Well,
observing.
and that's what
correct?
people think I tell people. And that's why I think some people don't call me or they may be a little adverse to my methods. I never tell somebody to not do anything. What I do is tell them to do the things that are going to be productive to getting their dog safe until we get it safe and managing the people so we know what our next steps are. If the dog doesn't come back, those phone calls are going to tell us what that looks like. Somebody has your dog, somebody saw your dog. The reality is it's funny the silence I hear on the phone when all of a sudden I tell them they have all these things to do that aren't go look for their dog. It's not what people want to hear all the
Right.
time.
What about chipping your dog?
Chips are a must.
I-
The very first thing I do when I trap a dog and can handle it, because sometimes you got to let them decompress a bit, scan them for a chip.
That's how I got my cat back.
I have
was
reunited
so glad.
dogs years later
Oh, wow.
because of
Oh, no.
microchips.
And that's all ours are chipped.
And get your dog, this is very important, get your dog scanned annually. Vets don't do it automatically.
Oh, just to make sure the chip hasn't disappeared.
Yep,
I
they
never-
move, they
I learned
gravitate,
something.
they fall out.
Oh, my
That's no joke. Make sure you
gosh.
get those. I mean, we've actually chipped dogs within the rescue, and months later, scanned them to go place them, and the chip is not there. So it's very important that you
Where'd
check
that chip go?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I mean, they can fall out. The hole doesn't close up. They ended up in the fur. You didn't know it. But yeah, getting that chip scanned and keeping your information up to date is a must. So,
Yeah.
but yes, you got to give your dog's nose something to target, not get in the way, start managing your people.
And managing the people. Observations are great. And maybe even go so far as to say, I know you really want to catch them for me, but don't. Just tell me where they are.
Yep.
And and then you would then look for the pattern or the direction that the dog is going.
Or coach the owners on what to do. I helped an owner just the other day. Dog was in somebody's fence, but we all know they've been jumping fences. So we were on the phone and we talked about how to approach so she didn't become this other human popping in the line of sight and there goes the dog right back into the canyon. There's just a lot of pieces to it, but it's based on dog behavior and we have to operate. It's
Yeah. And
Fear.
it's more training of the person than it is the dog.
100%.
Now, we keep talking about the dog coming back home,
Mm-hmm.
but you are also finding that not all the dogs have a home to
Correct.
go back to, correct?
Correct.
Is that, how would you characterize that? A problem, an issue?
It depends. If we're talking about owned or cared for pets in the way of a foster, rescue, or otherwise, they still settle. And that's where I help people, and I'm a trapper. That's what I do is I catch the dogs nobody can catch. They'll establish a pattern or a routine that we can capitalize on and then implement non-human involved capture methods.
Yeah.
You know, if they're strays or street dogs at large, that's a lot where my other part of the proper, A Way Home for Dogs was founded and still's primary purpose is to help owners with missing pets, but we are increasingly being tasked with helping securing dogs that are at large or strays.
And people don't know that, do they?
No.
Wait, was that just the call you had when I met you?
It was, yes.
Hi, I'm Brittany. Hi, I'm Babs. Ring, ring, ring. And it was somebody saying there's a dog that's
2 dogs
loose.
Yes.
It's
and they
not
were
mine.
chasing it and they were running. And I'm like, I know it's counterintuitive. Please stop following.
Yeah.
You
Just just tell
leave
us
them
what
alone.
direction
Exactly.
the dog went.
Oh,
Exactly.
And then maybe post it on like Craigslist
Correct.
and
Yes.
neighborhood. Hey, I saw these dogs.
Yep.
This is where I saw them. This is when I saw them.
Yep.
Facebook.
That is one
all
of the.
that.
I mean, I'm not a fan of social media, but that's probably one of the best reasons that we should have social media. I live in Alpine, and we have this little group in Alpine, and we just had a dog, big old, looks like a Saint Bernard. Actually, they got
Bernie's mountain dog that ran off when the owner got hit by a golf cart.
Okay, so you see, but it had never
They
been.
called me.
and it wasn't chipped.
Yep.
It wasn't chipped, so everybody was in a panic.
Yep.
I think it was Paul Dyke, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh, really?
from El Cajon Ford that was posting. And, it's not like he went out to chase it. He was just letting everybody know that this dog, actually, I think he did. He took the dog in, took it to the vet, got it, checked it for. Is there a handheld device that you can check to see if your dog's chips are still
I have
around?
them. Several of my volunteers do. Yeah.
Are they expensive?
$300-$400.
All right.
Ooh, wait. So like over in Santee, don't you on Thursday nights have like a chip event?
Yeah,
What
we've
about
got-
a chip scanning event?
We do it at every event. We
Oh, you scan
We
it?
always have our scanners with us. We
Well,
offer
you're
to-
going to meet
Yeah.
Dusty Rose and
We offer to
Santee
scan
then.
anybody that brings their
Oh,
dogs. We do
awesome.
$20 microchipping,
Gotcha.
covers our cost.
Right.
Thanks
Yeah.
for asking, Dave.
Chips are a big deal.
Oh, I'm telling you, my cat was 2 miles away from our house,
Yeah.
and 3 months later, I got a call. I was getting my hair done, and
You know what we ought to
written him
do?
off, and,
We ought to chip Brendan.
I don't want to know.
Well, because he gets out every once in a
I
while.
saw him in
It's
the
a big
hallway.
See, so
Yeah.
he gets out
No.
on occasion. So I'm thinking his wife would love to have
As long
him
as he
chipped.
promises not to bite.
Uh-oh.
We can make
Wait a minute.
we
Here
can make
comes
that
the
happen.
headphones. It won't hurt.
I know, but at the same time, I'm okay with just saying I'm here with my baby right now.
Yeah.
Even though the baby has 3 more weeks left, I can just give that
Well,
excuse.
some might say we got chipped with the vaccine. Just saying.
Oh, jeez.
Only if you took it.
Had to.
But we're
Anyway,
not going to go there.
The strays. Did you want to elaborate that?
Well, let's take
at
another
all?
break.
Oh my gosh, it's 129.38.
Don't you hate that?
Oh.
And we come back, we'll talk more with Babs right here on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
All right, folks, welcome back to YAK Radio with Dave Stahl and Brittany Sandoval. We're talking to Babs. Babs is a, I guess you could say a dog rescue and
Dog detective I've seen.
detective. Pet
recovery specialist.
Pet recovery
specialist.
specialist.
Angel on Earth.
Yeah, but before we do that, since Babs is not writing a check, San Diego Gear and Axle is paying for this segment. We can't thank them enough. Whether it's be 2-wheel, 4-wheel, all-wheel, anything under the carriage of your vehicle, Steve can do it. sdgearaxle.com. All right, I know you have 27
million.
questions.
I think it's kind of with possibly the strays. You said that right now, presently, there are 2 adoption events going on.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
You should be there. But you came here. Thank you.
You know what's funny is one of my very hardcore behind the scenes supporters said at one point, we were doing like 1 or 2 events a weekend, and I'm like, we got an opportunity for 2 in a day, and I said, I'm not saying no. The reality is there's a lot more behind the call Babs than just people with pets. The reality is there's a lot of street strays or dogs at large, and the reality is all of them could have an owner. Sadly, well, that's our hope for all of them. The reality is many, many, many do not have anybody come to claim them.
Do you post them somewhere?
Yeah, so
Pictures.
yes, so basically what happens is once we recover the dogs, we process them just like any other stray through the shelter in hopes that an owner will come forward, that somebody might be looking for them. The sad reality is the majority of dogs that require our intervention have a lot of issues, whether it be behavioral, fear, or otherwise.
That's why they're out there.
That's
yes.
what I have on my hands right now.
And they are, no shelter in the county is a whole other show, but no shelter in the county is no kill like people think it is. The reality is
no
that's
shelter is
Well-
a
no kill.
What
It's
about
percentages.
Helen Woodward.
That's not a shelter. They're a rescue.
Okay, I wanted.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the reason
Yep.
I asked you
Educate
the
us.
question.
Yep. A lot of people think that. The same thing with Rancho Coastal Humane Society.
Yeah, and then they go.
Yep.
Do you know how much it costs to rescue a dog? It's like $500. Well, why do you suppose that is?
Yep.
Because they go through all their medical. They get it.
They're feeding them.
Yep.
Well, and then I went to Helen Woodward one time. I said, "Dang, these dogs live better than I do," because they take extremely good. Well,
Yep.
not only dogs, cats, and what have
Of
you.
course.
But what I have noticed, being married to a dog lady for as long as I have, you've got to vet the owner.
100%.
My wife, she's about your size, and she has you sign a 5-page contract when you buy a dog from her.
After you spend a couple hours on the phone and grilled them
And
about
a
their
couple
whole
hours
history.
in the house before they're delivered.
I'm liking Michelle more and more.
And I told her, I said, so one day she says, "Hey, honey, I'll be back." I said, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "I'll be back." I didn't think nothing of it, so she gets in the car and drives off and comes back with a dog.
Came home with a dog, huh?
And I went, what is this? Well, you remember that guy that I told you I wasn't real comfortable with, and he said he lived in a house with a backyard and all that? I just knew he was lying to me. So sure enough, she went there, and he was living in a one-bedroom apartment, and it was a rot. So she took the dog, gave the guy all his money back. He complained. She said, "Here's your contract. Here's where you
Oh,
initialed."
he held up all fingers.
Yeah.
I had to look.
And she says, the guy was 6'6" and 250 pounds. But see, that's not how her brain works. It was all
For the
about the dog.
Yep.
And so she went and got the dog. I went, well, if you ever decide to do that
Could
again,
you please take me with you?
you might want to take me with you. But she doesn't. It's not how she's wired.
I'm the
She'll
same
take
way. I
care-
mean, I go into situations which, in retrospect, sometimes, come with a lot of danger. But when it's second nature,
Right.
and when you have experience and you have a confidence level, but also an awareness.
Right.
And you're
You
led
know.
with your heart.
Yeah. It's just,
So there's a problem too out there, is that breeders are getting a really, really bad rap. And granted, there are some breeders that are in it for the money, but I would say the majority, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think the majority of breeders care more about the animal and where it's going to end up than what money they're going to get in their checkbook. Yes or no?
honestly, that's a hard question for me to answer, primarily
Because you deal with nothing but rescues.
and it's not just that. I have absolutely nothing against breeders, most specifically responsible
Bingo,
breeders. And the
bingo.
problem is that breeding, like anything else in life, has become a trendy way of making money for people. And the sad reality is there's a very small percentage of the breeders out there that really do breeders justice in the way that they conduct their business, vet their owners, even breed their dogs, and work for the right qualities,
When it comes to breeding
Yep.
her dogs, if the bloodline of the male or the female does not meet her standards, she ain't doing it.
That's not everybody, though. And that's
No,
why
I
it's
know.
a tricky question.
And
I have
it's
respect for breeders like your wife,
That's
for sure.
the sad
Yep.
connotation of a breeder, because a lot of people think a breeder's like a lawyer, and I'm telling you, she does not do it for the money. She does it for the life. We have puppy parties.
And it's not just the dogs, it's for the love of the breed. And
Yes.
what's really sad is that these off breeders
Right.
are really ruining the behavior, the
What is
genetics,
up
the
with putting
appearance.
all these dogs
Don't get me
together?
started. Don't get me started. I
That's-
can't have that conversation
No.
on a radio show.
I can't. I
The
just.
beep button.
Noodle. Everything's a noodle.
I just.
I always joke. I end up with a mutt, and in fact, we trapped a very small Malinois or a Dutch Shepherd, but she's like 30 pounds, way too small to be purebred. And I'm like,
wait.
I'm going to call her a micro and charge $5,000 adoption fee.
There you go. Girl after
It's-
my own heart.
It's crazy.
So, let's before we get to the end of the show, which we're a ways away.
Yeah.
For somebody that out there, and COVID was the worst for.
That's why I have 70 dogs in my rescue.
Yeah, because people thought, they don't know anything about dogs. So, what are some of the rules that somebody should abide by before they either buy or rescue?
Educate.
There's so much out there too.
Everybody gets it. I mean, I get a lot of heat because I don't do a lot of storytelling about our dogs that are up for adoption. I was just telling somebody at an event today that we've got three newer dogs to our rescue, all probably a year or two, if that know sit, down, shake, and are scared shitless of the world. Mm-hmm. And oh, by the way, nobody came looking for them.
Right.
And my money is on, well, one of them is a chow mix, the other is a husky mix. And then the other is a Jack Russell Chihuahua mix. And the fact of the matter is what happened during COVID is people made decisions emotionally.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Or visually.
Right.
And without getting an education on what the dog that you're getting comes with.
Or what kind of breed is it?
Exactly. You're set up for failure. And even rescue, as a rescue, you have to educate the audience that's going to be adopting your dog. When one of the things, I work with a lot of rescues about newly adopted dogs or fosters that go missing. And one of those things I've really worked hard to bridge is the education gap. When you say fearful to me, I get throw itself down, alligator roll, start snapping like an alligator over just going up a stair. But I understand that level of fear. If I say that to somebody else, they have no concept of that kind of fear level until you experience it.
Okay, so she wants to know your address.
No, I don't want a Rottweilers. No,
I'm only kidding.
No, I know. I'm being funny.
She brought up a good point. I was going to bring it up too.
Is this
How about
Michelle?
dogs?
Yeah, I think so.
How about dogs that come up from Mexico?
Oh,
well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Actually, what I was starting to address was those rescues. Here's the fact. We know nothing about their history. We know nothing about what makes them tick genetically, but more specifically, at some point in their life, unless they grew up and just got relinquished by somebody, they had to operate on raw instinct. They were either on the street or in bad situations. And the same goes for American rescues. And where we need to start bridging that gap is in the minute somebody starts talking to me about, and eventually, and this, they're out. Because I already know they have expectations I can't guarantee the dog can commit to.
Right.
You have to come to the table open-minded with a willingness and commitment to embrace the dog, assuming it's at its ultimate best, and willing to do whatever it takes to go further if that's something that you want to strive for, knowing it may or may not happen, even after thousands of dollars of training.
Right.
And that's where, in my opinion, a lot of rescuing falls short, both American through shelters and Mexican and other rescues, because we get caught up in the emotional portion of what we're doing, and we forget that dog who evolved from this scared to death, cowering or biting whatever, evolved, is going to revert right back to that in the, oh my God, my whole world has changed and I'm starting all over again, and we haven't educated the people on what to expect when they get it.
Okay, so I don't want to get...
Does that answer her question?
I think you'll find out. So I'm not trying to
You can give her my number.
I'm not trying to be political, but Commander, the president's dog, and the dog before him, Major, have bit almost every Secret Service agent in the White House.
Well, first, my hat's off that they haven't euthanized them, but that's a management issue.
No, I don't want them to euthanize, but
it's a management issue. No dog should ever be set up to bite.
But what they're saying as an excuse is the White House is a very stressful place to be.
Oh, I don't doubt that that's a very difficult place for a dog to live. The reality is you should be managing that appropriately, not letting that behavior exhibit itself, because eventually somebody is not going to care about their paycheck or get mauled like me and not come out on the right end of something. And you know who's going to pay for that? That dog.
Right.
Because at some point, the face of doing the right thing, that dog is going to have to be euthanized.
Well, it's like I was telling the wife. I mean, if one of those dogs bites a Secret Service agent bad enough, the next thing you're going to hear is pop.
Yeah, that's what she's
Sorry,
saying.
can you tell I'm passionate? I got loud.
Well, no, but
I mean, that just shouldn't happen.
That's why, and being as much of a dog guy as I am now, as soon as I heard about his dog, the one dog, okay, maybe, but two dogs, and they're shepherds, which isn't probably the best dog to have in the White House.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know if Michelle knows, both of my rescues are from Mexico. And my shepherd husky mix is so freaking mellow. It's unbelievable. And she's the one that came from the streets.
But it's not a purebred shepherd.
True. But
am I right or wrong? Are shepherds a little bit more?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. But yes, I mean, shepherds, generally speaking, I mean, to be frank with you, the reason you see a lot more Malinois than shepherds as working dogs is they're both very driven.
That's where
they're
wanted to
both
go.
working dogs.
They need a job.
Shepherds tend to be more emotional. They tend to be more sensitive.
Buddy of mine, him and his wife went to work one day, came
They're
back.
sensitive.
The dog ate the door.
German shepherds
That's
tend
funny
to
'cause
be
it's not my door.
German shepherds tend to be more sensitive. They're not. I mean, I don't want to get on a tangent here, but because I'm a Malinois girl, I've had several. I grew up with shepherds. They both are an amazing breed in their right. But German shepherd. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mouse are skits. The problem with mouse is that they're very committed and they're very driven, but they're incredibly smart, so they can be taught. Good or bad.
Right.
That's
Shepherds
exactly
are
where I
also
wanted to
incredibly
go.
smart, but they can be very emotionally motivated, and can lack some security. And I agree with you. If you've got one, it's one thing, but if you've got two, it's a bigger problem.
They need.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
No,
it's
no,
probably
I-
it's either owner or environmentally not managed properly.
Or
even
Correct.
both.
The management.
There's an issue there. And again, I'm not saying that it's the owner's fault that the dog's biting, and I'm not saying that the environment is why the dog is biting. But there's definitely a problem with an environment that's not being managed.
And somebody
to
needs to
prevent
find
that.
out
100%.
what's
Doesn't sound like they
causing it.
learned
100%.
from the first bite.
Yes.
And that's what I'm learning with my other dog.
You're 100%. They learn. I'm very careful when I'm dealing with really fearful dogs, especially since being mauled. Whether I like to admit it or not, I come to the table a little bit more anxious than I used to.
Yeah.
And the reality is I'm very careful about when I interact with a dog and how I do. And I actually have others if I need to. Because the minute they snap, even if they're not committed to the bite, and I recoil, they're like, oh, that worked. Because in most cases, it's not an act of aggression.
I got what I
Fight or
wanted.
flight, fly or die. That is dog instinct in the raw. And if they can't flee, they're going to bite. Every dog will bite.
All right, let's take a quick break. We're coming back
my gosh.
with one more segment right here
Only
on
one more.
YAK Radio FM. Are you tired?
No, I'm sad.
You'll be okay.
I want more with Babs.
Well, you can bring her back on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
All right, folks, welcome back to YAK Radio FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
Brought to you by John's Automotive Imports. Got 3 shops now. Guy's just as crazy as the rest of them. John'sAutomotiveRepair.com. But he does such a good job. John's San Diego Autorepair.com. Check it out. 3 locations. AAA, Napa Auto Care, ASC certified. They work on your car. You're guaranteed for 3 years, 36,000 miles clear across the United States. All right, after that whole segment, man, I tell you what, we need some wine.
Yes, there are 2 things Babs did not ask me to promote, but I want to.
Okay.
The thing that caught my eye, and I was like, hey, come on the show and talk about sandals and stems for street strays. Please elaborate, because then there is a glass of wine.
Included.
Yes. So, it kind of goes back to one of the conversations we got squirreled away from. And, the reality is we end up helping a lot of dogs that have nobody.
Yes.
And we try to be their last resort, literally, euthanasia or us. And that means they require a lot of time, a lot of rehab, sometimes training and other things. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, I've had to embrace that we are donation-based and I can't operate for free. And I always help owners for free, but these strays don't pay for themselves. So we are having I'm afraid to even say it. I'm so scared. I know we'll be just fine and successful, but we're having our very first fundraiser of sorts. It's going to be wine tasting. It's going to be at Zozen Cellars at Soft Trade Center Drive. It's $60. It's going to include a flight or glass of wine, Mexican buffet, and
I love
then
flights of wine.
I will have a more focused discussion on the do's and don'ts about if you lose a pet.
So she's not taking questions from us, Dave. That's
So do you have like pamphlets that you'll be passing out to people?
No, I was just going to talk to people and
You
try
ought
to
to do a pamphlet.
something they can walk
I
away
just told
with.
you everybody wants a black and white. I can't give them a pamphlet or black and
well,
white.
okay.
Unless I say call Babs.
Yeah.
I mean, stay put and don't spread your smell. Call Babs, and I'll tell you what your next steps
Call
are.
Babs.
What's your phone
Take
number?
a deep breath. Call Babs.
619-249-2221.
It's super
It
easy to
is-
find.
It's out there everywhere.
Little slower for old people.
619-249-2221. And
that's pretty 24/7.
Or
it is 24/7. I answer all calls, and if I don't answer, I return all messages. Text messages are second, private message, and otherwise is to the backseat.
How often do you do a fundraiser?
I've done some little offers, but I've never done something fancy like this, which is why we said sandals, because I live in flip-flops. And I don't drink wine.
Yes.
That was not my alcohol of choice when I was drinking.
I'll drink your flight. And she does have flip-flops on.
But tickets can be purchased on our website, or everything is available on our Way Home for Dogs Facebook page.
What part of town is this? Because it says World Trade Drive, Sweet Pea, San Diego.
I believe it's in Sereno Valley, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. I'll trust you on that, girl.
And when is it?
It is August 20th, and it is going to be from 2 to 5 p.m.
You mentioned fundraising, and I wanted to practice this first. But I know their first names. Let's see. I think it's Mike and
What kind of name is?
Mandy, I think is his wife. Did they help you?
Are those the radio?
Call
Mike and Mandy.
Yeah,
Call
Mike-
Francisco.
Thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to practice, and I
Yes.
didn't have a chance. 'cause
Penny's owners.
Yes,
Haven't-
Penny's owners. All I
Haven't
needed
been
to
on
say.
radio much, huh? I see.
No.
Did they help you on becoming
Yes.
legit?
They did. Mike and Mandy had a sweet soul that went missing in Valley Center. He happens to be in upper echelon in the fire department, and I believe she's an ICU nurse, so they're used to being first responders and in control.
Right.
And when their dog
is
went
big.
missing, I stepped in and said, "You're going to take a back seat." And fortunately for myself and Penny, they were out of town, so they had to. And they
you
were
found
willing.
them? And you
Yes,
found
30
them.
days later, we got their dog safe, and they asked kind of how I operated, and I shared with them there wasn't enough me, and I tried multiple times but never got my nonprofit going. And he does several for the fire department and stepped up, and I get a little emotional, honestly.
Are you
I
getting
bet.
your nonprofit, or are you still working?
I know I am a
They
501c3, and I have
did
been
it.
because
Okay.
they
So
made it happen.
Here's the next thing we're going to do. So
Yes,
what
sir.
we're
Thank you,
going to do,
Mike and Mandy.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do, probably in September or October, where you're going to have another event, we'll get a car club or something to be part of it.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, and if you go through the San Diego Automotive Council, you get free insurance, so you don't have to pay anything to insure the event you're doing. Bring you on KUSI TV to promote your event, and then you'll probably never speak to me again because it'll blow your event out of the water because of all the viewers on KUSI.
I would love to talk to you offline about doing that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and then as long as you and the reason I say throw in a car club because that's
They like to drink a lot?
Well, no,
I'm
that's
not
re-
sure that's a good thing.
No, and we're not. You
We're
don't
done
even.
talking about
I'm just
drinking,
joking.
Babs.
We don't even have to have alcohol involved
Just
because it could be a
cars.
car show.
Yep.
With you as the main focal point. Have a bunch of cars. Have the car owners bring their dogs to the.
That would be
Because you
amazing.
very rarely hear car clubs say, "Hey, bring your dog with you."
Yep.
But as long as we promote it, then because everybody that I do this with on TV just says it's off the charts. I mean, it really
That'd be amazing.
It's all about eyeballs. So let me just ask you this:
Oh my gosh.
what about cats?
I help owners with missing cats. In fact, I have a trap set right now for a cat that's gotten out. The cats are a little bit more cut and dry than dogs, primarily because circumstances are different. They operate differently. And so I
Yeah.
typically send cat owners a pretty cut and dry list. And then you start working those leads as they come in. It is very different than dogs because cats operate differently at large. You know,
Yes.
it's a reality. They're also seen everywhere. So it's got to be a more concentrated effort, and you've got to have confirmed sightings before you start really working a trap.
Right. Gotcha. So, yes.
Can people come, because our interview is almost done? They can see you in Santee on Thursdays. Is this a regular thing?
Yes, actually, if they go to A Way Home for Dogs, our calendar has all of the adoption events that we participate with.
What was the name of the location?
A Way Home for Dogs is the name of the website.
Okay, what
out
about
in
where
San-
you're-
In Santee, we are currently participating in their summer night series, summer concert. So
Where is
we're out
that?
there. We're out there on Thursdays at the park. I think it's Park Drive actually. And then our calendar has where we are throughout the week.
And then if
Yeah.
anybody wants to volunteer or help because they're
Desperate.
animal lovers,
We bring as many dogs. We have 70 dogs in our rescue, 30 of which can go out in public on events. And we are limited on a revolving door of who we take because we're limited on people willing to come chill with us and hold a leash.
Sure.
Oh, really? What an awesome opportunity.
Well, the McKinnons who own KUSI are dog fanatics. They support Helen Woodward, the other
they're
one
on all
that you
the time.
mentioned, the Coastal.
Rancho Coastal? Uh-huh.
If it's got in fact, it's funny, I tell people, hey, if you're coming to KUSI and promote, if you bring dogs, you'll get more airtime.
That's funny. You can finish.
Your
I just have a lot of things I want to bring up in 4 minutes.
Your little finger is up.
Is the Point Loma Farmers Market a regular thing?
Yes,
or not?
we are there every single Sunday. In fact, we were there this morning without me.
Oh.
Wow. And
because I have some amazing people that help me.
Do you want to give a shout out to them? On
Yes.
Racer Radio, we say shout out sponsors.
It's a very long list, but today I had Rita and Shani setting up down in Point Loma and some solid volunteers showing up to handle dogs. I had Kim up in Encinitas and Sarah. And then I've got Janine behind the scenes who orchestrates it all, and Susie and Marnie actually on property who made sure we got all 70 dogs fed, watered, and cleaned so I could leave.
Right.
And thank you to whomever responded to my original outreach. Somebody responded.
Probably Janine.
Thank you. This is probably something you don't want me to bring up, but I am anyway. Face Foundation nomination. What's that all about? Are you being nominated for
guess
something?
so. I guess there's another hero thing. I share it if people make me aware of it, but I really never intended to be in the public eye. I would be okay to be under my rock.
I realize that's why I'm bringing it up.
But
she did not ask me.
Face Foundation currently has a fundraiser that involves nominations of individuals in the community for their heroic efforts on the behalf of animals, and so I've been nominated under one of the individual categories.
And nothing is more rewarding than getting your loved one back.
Oh my gosh.
True. But I lost a pet. That's why I don't consider myself a hero. I mean, all I'm doing is filling a gap that I was grateful somebody was there to handle for me when my dog went missing.
And I read somewhere you had 2 mentors that really helped you as well. Just kind of.
I do. Well, Laura Bittinger, who actually lives in Ramona, is who was crazy enough to listen to me after I said she was crazy. And then Mike Noon in LA actually is a very, very good friend of mine and somebody who has mentored me frequently.
Well, it's all about getting the word out, and that's the key. Because I mean, nothing I love better. I showed you a couple of videos. If I go to a restaurant and the waitress, you could tell maybe she's having a bad day, I whip out a couple of photos or a video, and I always get to say, "Aw, aw,"
right?
Because nothing will put a smile on your face like an animal.
So true.
It doesn't have to be a dog, doesn't have to be a cat. It just has to be an animal. Because
and it brings people together of every variety.
Does. Every shade, color, ethnicity.
Yeah. I was at La Mesa. There was a big pet event, and I had brought Dusty Rose. It was when I was looking for a second dog, and we just sat down. And she started to sniff on a gentleman, and he was a very quiet guy. And I go, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, would you like to pet?" And he said, "Yes." And so he carefully pet. And he said, "I just came from Afghanistan. This is the first dog I've ever pet."
Wow.
Yeah, I was like,
I know.
And then we started a nice conversation.
Babs, give that phone number out one more time slowly.
619-249-2221. And the website is awayhomefordogs.com.
Help hold a leash. Get some more strays
please.
out there to adopt.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
And don't forget, if it's over 70, 80 degrees out, do not take your dog for a walk unless you're going to go barefoot too.
Yep.
Right here on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.